Hi there, I'm Juliana Carroll, and this is my sister and partner in Coffee and Tech, Lisa Jackson. Together, we are your hosts here at the Coffee Tech Talk Show, exploring anything and everything to do with work orchestration and automation.
How are you? Welcome back to another session of Coffee Tech Talk. I am here as usual with my sister, Juliana Carroll. Say hey, Jay.
Hi.
We have a very special guest with us today by the name of Jessica Manuel. Say hello, Jessica.
Hi there.
But before we get started, as always, I have to do some housekeeping and make sure that you guys tune in to our YouTube channel, which is Coffee Tech Talk Show, and that you subscribe and also follow us across the social media sites at Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter at Coffee Tech Talk. So with that said, Jessica, welcome to Coffee Tech Talk Show. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Well, we're very excited to have you, and we're going to just jump right into it. Starting with, tell us what you do and how is it that you know my sister?
Well, so I guess what I do is very closely tied to how I know Juliana. So I met Juliana when I became the COO for a new organization called Production Services. So by trade, I have been closely affiliated with the COO role, but also strategy. So I actually just accepted a new position back on the strategy side of things. I left my COO position that I held for nearly 3 years and I'm getting back into strategy. But Jay and I met because building out a new organization, I was a team of one, and Juliana, being the brilliant person that she is and the expert that she is, she actually came along and helped us lay the foundation for that organization. What seems like a very long time ago, but in reality wasn't that long ago.
Okay.
Congratulations on your new job, a new role.
Thank you.
Very cool.
So, where are you? What location are you in this world?
So I'm based out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, one of those little big towns across the United States. And I've been here my entire adult life. This place lures you in, and don't ever see myself leaving it, actually.
Okay. That's awesome. So how did you get into this field that you're in, and how long have you been in it?
Well, it's interesting. So if I had to classify myself, I'm really a professional change agent, for lack of a better term. I actually started out, I entered the workforce straight out of high school at a small business. And very quickly, what that small company was actually faced with some digitization issues. If you guys are familiar with the old blueprints, like the ammonia based product, the company I work for, that was 1/3 of their income, and at that time everything was going digital. So I actually helped that company manage that gap into the digital world and actually produce plans online. So having navigated that, I found a real passion for helping organizations bridge the change gap, and it's something that I feel passionate about and I'm pretty good at. And so I went to a couple large institutions and managed everything from SAP integrations for engineering information or procurement systems. And that technology aspect coupled with the process management aspect really kind of fell into the wheelhouse of that COO strategy type work, and I've been doing that for about 7 years now.
Wow, that sounds all very challenging. So, when it comes to work for you, what does work mean to you? And what are some of the challenges that you can share with us, and how do you solve it?
So work to me, in that day-to-day job is really just removing obstacles and enabling whatever organization that I'm working for to run smoothly. And,
Mm-hmm.
that goes across the gambit of, people, processes, and tools. So I'm constantly looking for ways to make things better, to really enable the people that do what I actually call the hands-on real work. I want my
Mm-hmm.
job is to help them do that better and them to enjoy it more. So throughout anything that I do during the day or any projects that I'm working on, I'm constantly asking myself that questions like, you know, there's a how aspect, but there also the what are we going to get out of it? And, part of that is, how do we make people buy into what we're trying to do?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
you evolve quite a bit, right? From, over the years and so on. How does that happen? How do if you were to give someone an advice on how to evolve, how to how to go after the different types of roles? Did you go after the different types of roles, or how does it happen for you?
Um, it's funny. I feel like I always end up picking up the work that nobody else wants to do. And I've never been afraid to say, yeah, I don't know how to do that, but I'll figure it out. So, advice that I would give to someone is just because it's not something that you're doing now, don't be afraid and don't shy away from it. And if you can be the person that raises your hand and takes on that bucket of work that nobody else wants. Any type of experience that you can add into your tool belt and quite frankly build out transferable skills, that's where you want to invest your time in. There's something immensely valuable in really being seen as like the glue or the connector or somebody that can bring multiple pieces of something together. And in order to get there, you have to be multidimensional, and you're not going to get that if you do the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah, that's really good advice, actually. I remember when we first met, and it was new for everyone, right? It was a new concept that management was trying to bring in, and we're all trying to figure out how to make it happen. And I remember, and you said, "I'm not an expert at this, but I can make sure that you get what you need to make this happen, and let's work on it together, right?" So I thought that was really cool. That's I think that's why we clicked together, to be honest. So even though we didn't really meet each other in person for a bit there.
Yeah.
So what is your pet peeve when you are given work to do, when you give people work to do?
Well, when I'm given work to do, I like to just understand who the decision maker is, and if it's
Mhm.
me, that's great. And if it's not me, that's also great. Just as long as we've established that in the upfront, because honestly, that's going to change how I approach or bring information back. So my pet peeve is when those ground rules change in midstream, and you have to kind of repivot and change your tactics a little bit.
Mm.
And my only pet peeve in like giving work out is, if you say you're going to do something, please just do it. If you can't do it, just again, tell me that up front, and then we'll come to some sort of compromise. So just let's stick to what everybody agreed to, and then that keeps me very happy.
That makes
Don't
that
leave
makes a
us,
lot of
right?
sense.
Or let's get, or let us know, and then we can,
We can find another way. Exactly.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The worst thing is when you waste people's times, right? If you're asked to do something and if you can't do it, be upfront about it, say that you need help, and make sure that you're also asking the right person. And which brings me to this question, as a woman in the industry where it's technology in general and banking, finance are very a male dominated industry. How would you, piggybacking off of what Jay was saying, how would you advise other younger women who are interested in doing something like what you're doing in that area, what would you advise what would that advice be?
Make sure you're heard. I think sometimes the hardest thing is making sure your voice or your perspective is being heard. And
Hmm.
sometimes that means syncing up with a friend, an ally ahead of a meeting saying, I'm going in to this. Can you back me up? And actually leveraging other people in the room to make sure
Mhm.
that your perspective is heard. Um, I hate to say that it's a little bit like warfare, and sometimes you shouldn't have to, but you do have to have a
Mhm.
strategy about how you're going to approach
Yeah.
some of those more difficult conversations. Um, you know, Especially where decisions are going to be made. Again, being a woman, we hear often that women aren't that great at negotiating, especially for themselves, and you know feeling that pressure and not having somebody that's done at least giving you a sanity check before you run into that room, having that extra confidence boost heading in there always helps. um,
Mhm.
but definitely just make sure you're heard on all fronts, and if your voice is not being heard, get your allies, and if you don't have them, find them and build those relationships.
That is like a warfare game. Like those computer games that they have. You got to build allies, right?
I mean,
That's interesting.
but that's life in general, right? It's very, very few times in this world that you can do anything by yourself in a way that scales, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
Yeah.
and some of the best advice I've actually been given along those fronts is to take yourself out of it. Again, standard female. I don't know whether to call it a stereotype or not, but women are fantastic at negotiating on behalf of other people. Like when we're going to battle for people in our team to get them their promotion or get them the market adjustment that needs, we're fierce. We're not that way for ourselves. So the somebody probably about 4 years ago told me, don't negotiate for you, negotiate for the person after you when you're taking a new job. But that advice has also transferred into, this is not for me, this is for the company, this is for the organization, this is for my team. And being able to take myself out of it definitely was one of those mental shifts that
Mm.
helped me become a little bit more aggressive and stand my ground a little bit more.
wow, that's great advice.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a really, really good advice because I think I'm that person. It's easier for me to negotiate for other people, but when it comes to me, I don't know.
Yep.
I think I'm too nice, and
Yep.
I think Juliana,
Juliana she has a
she
look.
doesn't have that problem. She can do it just like that, and I'm just like,
Yeah, true.
no, I think you're pretty fierce when it comes to negotiating. And I'm actually learning, a little bit more about that, from her. Just saying it's like we have to remember our value, right?
Mhm.
Because we're valuable, we bring a lot to the table, and unless we say it, they're not going to know that, right?
Absolutely.
And we used to have problems about patting ourselves on the back, and if you're not going to do it, who else will, right?
I
So
agree.
I've learned to start taking credit for the work that I do, because I've done a lot of work, that I'm proud of, and I should, and that's what we need to be able to do as women or people in general, right?
Exactly. Agreed
There's
wholeheartedly.
continue on that just a little bit because I think it's important, especially for, up and coming people, right?
Hmm.
There's a difference being a braggart
Right.
and, facilitating team credit
Yep.
and also standing for yourself, right? Those
Right.
are very, very different things. You should absolutely give credit, you know, to your team, to the people that help you, to your peers, to your management that support you, et cetera, et cetera. But just don't want to undervalue what you can bring on the table because you do bring that, right?
Yeah.
You take, the entire situation to a higher level and benefit, you know, other people, including the company, right?
Yeah.
So, actually, good point, Jessica. Thanks for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, I don't mean to drag on this, but we can cut this out, but it's kind of, as sometimes, because there's few of us in in the industry that we work in, especially as women, it's like a dog eat dog world kind of thing,
Yes.
right? And it's like we have to do whatever it takes so that we could be that person, or we show that we know what we're doing. And sometimes, we have to remember too that there's people that are watching and that need our help, and that we should be that example and help those behind us and in front of us, kind of a thing. Even though I've only had maybe one female mentor, and in my whole career, and that lasted maybe for about 2 months. It's kind of like, and ever since then, I've always had men as mentors. And nowadays there's more women in executive roles, and I think that we need to remember that we need to be those mentors. And women, younger women, millennials and beyond, they need that, right? And we should be that person. So
So,
okay.
Jessica, can you talk a little bit more? Lisa, you don't know this, but Jessica is very involved in those mentor programs. Can you talk a little bit more about the
Okay.
work that you do?
Yeah, actually. So, we, at my company, there's a couple employee resource groups that are specifically for women and a subset of women in technology, very active in the women in technology aspect of it. And, so some of the things that I've personally focused on and brought to that team is not only taking the time to mentor um, some of the early tenure or early career women in that group, but also bringing meaningful development, professional development to these folks, because some of how women need to approach things is a little bit different than the genericized version. And I hate to say that, but it is just how it is. And having specific um, workshops and practice even for women to, as they're developing throughout their career. We are starting to actually take a look at how we ramp that up. And I've had the opportunity over the past year to, as you said, sometimes it's a dog eat dog world, but I've actually partnered with women at my career level to say, okay, we're all collectively trying to do this. How can we put our effort together and make sure that we're all pulling the same way for this specific initiative? And that was different for me, and it's different than it has been in the past. And so, as I've partnered with these ladies over the past year and a half, professionally, we've all had we're relatively close in the similar organizations, but learning to celebrate when they have successes, where maybe I'm a smidge jealous, or they got something that I didn't, a little bit jealous here or there, but kind of putting that aside and collectively celebrating, because it's not that they didn't deserve it, it's I felt that I deserved it too. And again, one of those little mindset shifts of there's just because they got the promotion or they got the assignment or they got selected for this top tier program doesn't mean that they got one over on me. I still need to celebrate and I still need to support them. So that has been something that I've carried on to my mentees, because
Mhm.
I felt like that was a shift. And I hear many times I've not had a female mentor, or every female manager I had I hate, I prefer to be managed by males. Well, how do we change that? And part of it is learning to, just because somebody else is having success doesn't mean that they deserve it, or not don't deserve it. You probably, maybe you deserve it too, or there was a reason, but it doesn't mean that they shouldn't have got it. And so again, that thinking beyond yourself.
Thank you so much, Jessica, for being our guest today. We really enjoyed talking to you, and I've enjoyed getting to know you. And we really appreciate your time. And those of you who are watching and listening, if you want to get to know Jessica or connect with Jessica, you can always get in touch with her through LinkedIn, and that's Jessica Manuel. Other than that, don't forget to follow us and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Coffee Tech Talk, and across our social media, which is Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn at Coffee Tech Talk. And if you want to email us and any questions from today's show or podcast, our email is connect@coffeetechtalk.show. Until then, anything else, Jay?
No, thank you.
Until next time.